Welcome to Sarpy Outlook. I'm Peg O'Dea Lippert. Our guest today is Senator DiAnna Schimek from Lincoln, Nebraska. She's here to discuss Nebraska's split electoral vote. Welcome, DiAnna.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
DiAnna has a long history of community and political involvement. She's served 5 terms in the Nebraska Unicameral, and since being term limited, has served on the Lincoln City Council. She also has served on multiple community and organizational boards through the years. In 1990, Senator Schimek introduced the split electoral vote into the Unicameral. It did not pass. She reintroduced the bill in 1991. And as most of our viewers know, this is a piece of legislature, along with the Unicameral and football, that set Nebraska apart on the national scene. DiAnna, would you start by telling us a bit about the history of the bill, how you decided to introduce it, and the level of support at that time?
I'd be happy to. Basically, I learned about the whole idea at a national meeting, and at that time only Maine had such a system of a split vote. And I thought it sounded like a really good principle to base your electoral vote on. It's proportional, somewhat proportional, more geared to the one person, one vote idea. So in 1990, I was pretty new to the legislature. I introduced the bill, and it did not go anywhere that year because the time ran out on it. So in 91, when I introduced it, it did get to the floor. There was a bipartisan sponsorship of it. I had 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans who were co-sponsors. And at some point in the process, it became obvious that it was going to be a partisan issue. And so at every stage of debate, I had to go around to all the supporters and have them assure me that they were going to be present the next day to vote. So on every stage of debate, there were the minimum votes needed to pass, 25 votes on each round of debate. And it did pass, and the governor did sign it. And so 1992 would have been the first year that it would have been in effect.
Well, it seems to me that there are some benefits that have followed this piece of legislature. We saw, of course, in 2008 that there was actually a split in our electoral votes, with some economic boom, at least in the 2nd district. And what about that? Does that matter to people? And also the issue of some people question that we should be doing this, but constitutionally it's well protected.
It is, and in fact, the authority to do this comes from the U.S. Constitution, Article 2, which sets out that electors shall be chosen in the same numbers of the members of Congress from your state. So if you have 3 representatives, like we do, you get those 3 electoral votes, then you get 2 electoral votes for the 2 senators that you have. So that is true in every state, but not every state chooses to choose them in the same way that we do. And over the years, they've been chosen in a variety of ways, by state legislators. In some cases, way back when, they were chosen by district, and more like what we do now.
In other states or
in other states, yeah, a lot of states originally did the district elections too. So there's been a variety of issues over the years, but that constitutional authority also said that it is up to each state to decide how to allocate its electoral vote. So that's why Nebraska can pass a bill which does it differently from any other state.
Well, I've noted, or it seems to me anyway, and I'd like your perspective on this, that since 2008, when we did indeed achieve an electoral vote for President Obama, that this has become more partisan. Is that true, or has it been rampantly partisan since the beginning in our unicameral?
I think it's been rampantly partisan almost since it was introduced. As I say, in the beginning, there were bipartisan sponsorship, but at some point that changed. And over the years, since its passage in 1991, there have been 13 attempts to undo it. There have been 13 bills introduced to undo it. And most of those didn't get out of committee, but some of them did and got to the floor where they subsequently died. There were a couple of times, however, when the bills did pass. That was early on. And they got to the floor of the legislature, and the governor was asked to veto them, but he didn't. He signed them, and that was Governor Nelson. So, no, I take that back. I'm saying it backwards. They passed
And he vetoed.
to rescind it. And so I think from almost the beginning, there has been a desire on the part of some to do away with it.
It seems to me that some of the reasons, and you and I both were there the day, well, the bill being introduced again now is LB 10 to eliminate the split electoral vote, and you and I both were there at the committee here. It seems to me that some of the reasoning of the proponents to get rid of it as proponents of LB 10 don't make much sense, DiAnna. Like that this other states haven't followed us, or that this doesn't influence the number of votes, and things that seem unrelated. It kind of seems like sour grapes to me a bit. Am I overreacting to that?
Well, I don't know if you call it sour grapes. It's certainly a desire to change things. And since 2008, of course, there's been more desire on the part of some to change it. Because it did work as it was supposed to work. Now, something that people should know is that it is only split, the vote is only split once since the bill was passed. If it had been in effect before 1991, you'd have to go clear back to 1964 to find a split vote. And before that, you'd have to go back to the 1940s to find a split vote. So it's going to be a rare occurrence, probably. Maine has never split their vote.
Oh, really?
No, they've never split this.
Interesting.
So I like to think of it as a pressure valve, that it provides for those occasions when there is such a desire to vote for one candidate in a particular part of the state, that it will go into effect. The bill has worked as it was supposed to work. It's not going to award any electoral votes if the candidate doesn't carry the district. So I think it's okay. There are some advantages, of course, to having this system, and you mentioned a little bit ago the financial aspect of it. There were some economic benefits in 2008, and it's hard to quantify everything, but in doing a kind of a survey of all the monies that was spent here, to the best of our knowledge, we could establish that at least $880,000 was spent. And that didn't take into account any rooms that staffers might have had to pay rent for. It didn't count the food they purchased. You know, there are lots and lots of things that you couldn't count. So at the very least, I'd say $1 million would not be a stretch of the imagination when you think of that in terms of the effect of multiplying that. You get up into millions of dollars. So, but I'm not sure that anything is as important as people feeling as if their vote counts. That is the main reason for the bill in the first place. And I can think of some people who came to some of the committee hearings and testified and said that for the first time ever, they felt as if their vote counted. They went out and volunteered. They got active in their campaigns. And again, because there was more of a contest, campaigns were more likely to invest in bumper stickers and yard signs, in television, and some of the things that get some excitement going in the state or in the congressional district, as it were. So I remember particularly, and you might be interested in this because it involves somebody from Sarpy County, who came to one of our hearings, and he and his wife were both veterans. They had retired here in the state, had been here for about 4 years, and they had originally come from Maryland. And they said they were so thrilled when they got to Nebraska and discovered, first of all, the unicameral, nonpartisan legislature, and secondly, the allocation of electoral votes, because they came from a state which didn't have either one of those, and they often felt marginalized in the state in which they lived. So they were really supportive of the idea. It just gives people, I think, a sense of pride in the state. It does give Nebraska some national attention on election night. I think the commentators were just following that 2008 election in Nebraska pretty closely. We never would have had a mention without that.
That's my point. You know, it's one of the things that gives Nebraska some national recognition.
That's right.
And in a state of this size, not that we're a huge state by population, but we're a vast state, really, with quite diverse opinions. And it just seems, what could be fairer, other than, you know, general popular vote, than to give people, to have the voices heard through the vote. It just, I mean, it just seems so important.
Yes, it does.
Yes. Well, it certainly makes me proud of Nebraska. And it's an issue dear to my heart, and I know yours too. I guess you're kind of the mother of the split electoral vote in Nebraska.
I would like to just relate one other little story about a young man who had gone from Nebraska to Harvard University, and he, as a freshman, had decided he wanted to try out for one of these research assignments with a group of professors. And he went in and was going to interview, and he told them he was from Nebraska, and these professors said, "You've got the job." And so he went out with them at their invitation to have coffee afterwards, and he said, "You know, why did you pick me? You seem to do it just spontaneously." And they said, "Well, we are in awe of the fact that you have the nonpartisan unicameral, and that you have a split electoral vote." And they were impressed, and so he was impressed. He came back to Nebraska with a lot of pride, and he lives here now.
Oh, wonderful. Well, is he in the unicameral by chance?
No, but I bet he will be someday.
DiAnna, what would be your parting words for our viewers who care about this issue, and what more can they do to ensure this fair representation of their voices being heard across this vast state?
Well, the best thing to do would be to let their legislators know how they feel. This bill, LB 10, is up on the, well, it was up on the agenda last week, but they've moved on, and this week it is up. It is not up on the agenda. There are, I think, 6 bills on general file, which is the first round of debate.
Okay.
And one of those bills is the voter ID bill.
Okay.
And it will get a lot of debate. So I suspect it may be next week, possibly, maybe even longer. You never know.
Could you just briefly go through the different phases when it would be important for interested parties to contact their legislators?
Right now, up until the time it comes up for a final vote, if it does. And the thing that it's easy for them to contact their senator, because all they have to do is, if they know the name of their senator, is write to J. Smith at leglegislature.ne.org. And that will get the email to their office. They can also call. They can go online and find out who their senator is. Go to the Unicameral website. So there are lots of ways to find out these things.
So that's what you would urge people to do, to contact their respective senator.
That's right.
Urging the importance of a vote against. Against. In LB10 is against.
Good point.
Yes. Yeah. We like to vote for things, but in this case we want to vote for them. So now is the time, and now until we don't know the agenda, they would have to check the agenda if interested in that level. But in the meantime, contact your own state senator to ask them to vote against for some of the reasons that we've discussed, really. Well, thank you so much, DiAnna, for your time and your wisdom and your insight. And any final word?
No, I guess the other thing I would say is that people can follow this in their local newspapers too, because I'm sure that will be a story that will be talked about.
Good. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.